All right, how's it going there, troops? It's of course the old Crow back again, doing another one of his Let's Design a G.I. Joe Classified videos. As you can see, I am no longer confined to my garage. We decided it was time for this old clown to get up and get moving again, so we hit to the road. My fam unit and I hopped into the Zulu call sign and beetled off to Toronto, Ontario, and that's where I am today. I'm out just enjoying some outdoor time and a beautiful day, and some plans to see the sights, and then just show my son some of the nicer areas of Toronto. But for today, I didn't bring any figures to pick up and do any reviews with today, so we're not doing a tactical perspective episode. We're gonna stick with the lesser Let's Design a G.I. Joe Classified Figure episode that I started with Flash, and I'm moving on today to show where I landed with Steeler and to talk a little bit more about Zap. And with that comes a discussion that I wanted to just entertain about the realism of the classified line. As you guys know from my other videos, if you've gone through that, you know exactly where I come from, what my background is, and what my stakes are with these figures, my interest. You also know that I'm going to be pestering Hasbro with a bunch of resumes, and I'm Canadian, so I'm not above going out with my hockey stick and puck, finding the design team executives' houses and slapping pucks against their garage door till they come out and play. That's what us Canadians do. So I'm going to get into what I did with my Steeler character today, and I want to have a discussion a little bit about one realism about the classified versus modern soldiering and the roles that these guys filled, and that is, can G.I. Joe function with an existing injury? And so one of the most common injuries you're going to find, guys, in the armed forces, if you were ever to start trying to do what some of these Joe characters have as their positions in their file cards, a really big one for anyone going as a frontline infantry, engineer, armored artillery, or into the Air Force or flight crews is hearing loss damage. It is very common for soldiers to see the degradation of their hearing over time. I myself have tinnitus, and I have several cases where I was very lucky to salvage my hearing the way it is. As you can tell through my long new hair, you don't see any earplugs in here, but if you meet veterans, you'll find that a lot of the guys that have been firing weapons for their career or driving the loud industrial engined vehicles, they're going to be wearing a lot of hearing assistance and hearing aids. So the answer to my question is an absolute yes. We can still do our job with a series of injuries. We're just like any other job where if we can be accommodated through that injury in the military, we are. At least that's how it is in Canada. Maybe it's just because we can't afford to let people go for minor stuff. And hearing loss is one of those ones that we can compensate for through modern devices. It's the same as, you know, we can manage having poor eyesight because we have aids for that. Well, we can manage with poor hearing because we have aids for that. So that's what I was kind of bringing into it when I decided I was really torn on this when we start talking about the character Steeler, who, as you guys know, I have a personal stake in this, as I did have a career in the Armored Corps with Canadian Armed Forces. But I was primarily a reconnaissance soldier. That's still armored, but what that is my unit, we had tanks, and you could be a tank commander and tank crew. And then we had reconnaissance, which used the light armored vehicles, the LAVs, the LAV 25 and LAV 3, LAV 6 now, and more recently the TAP V, which I tapped out of it before the TAP V. But the point going is, guys, when it comes to Steeler, I have a hard time thinking this guy's hearing is going to be perfect. And one of the things I was torn with is I wanted to pick one G.I. Joe classified character that I was going to design with hearing aids. If you look at the modern market, this is something that Hasbro, I think they'd welcome the opportunity to do this the right way. I don't like mirroring other product lines too much, but we've seen it with a lot of other toy lines where they do include, you know, people with amputations or handicaps where they come with a wheelchair, or perhaps they're a blind character, and they're represented that way in other toy lines. And the problem with a line like this is that you have to question whether the person functions with that handicap. And I think that having the little earpieces that go over the ear, it should actually be way more common with characters like Rock and Roll, Steeler, Cutter. You can't tell me that that the whale's engines that he sits in front of aren't deafening. I could go on, but definitely Steeler and definitely Zap and Bazooka. The guys that handle all this heavy ordnance, to me, CoverGirl's another one. Guys that probably have hearing loss. And so I just only wanted to limit it to one character would be represented on. And I'm still torn on whether it would be on Steeler or if it's going to be on Zap. Right now I have not put it on Steeler. I have put it on Zap. And again, I only want to keep it to one. It's probably more common than that in real life, but I think one character, it speaks to that character, and it speaks to addressing, you know, a very real military thing. And you guys know how I like that. So I think when I last showed you guys, I'm going to change the camera now and I'll show you where I'm at in Toronto right now. So this is my view today. I'm at a park. Okay. And so when I last talked to you guys, I was showing off I was doing my flash thing, and then I told you, you know, I was working on some concepts for Steeler. So one of the concepts I had for Steeler, and I'm going to go back there, was trying to keep it a little very humble and small, but sticking to the plain jumpsuit coverall kind of design that he had. He was a very plain figure with that chest holster, and then a separate color going on over his neck and whatnot. This isn't the reference. This was my first draft of kind of where I wanted to go with it. I wanted to give him a couple of things that made sense to me, and I'll show you in another sketch where this was going. So that was the first draft. Then I did my confirmatory draft to see if Flash was working, and I wanted to see if my Jinx was working as Steeler, and I decided that this wasn't working for me. So I scrapped that. And guys, where we went after, like I said, I got the Flash banged out. So this is where we landed on the Steeler, okay? So this is my version of Steeler. It's a lot like the other one, but there was some critical changes that I had to make understandable, okay? So if you go down it, I'm going to just go from head to toe, just like I do with my tactical discussions on the figure reviews, but I'm going to explain to you why I made the decisions I did, and I'm going to focus on some stuff after I get the wind to stop blowing. Have a look at my helmets. There, well, I solved my issues here. So I'm going to put some stuff down. There we go. All right. So one of the things I focused on, we're going to go from head to toe. So Steeler, I gave him the Brad Pitt haircut from the movie Fury because it's an inside joke in the Armored Corps. Anybody who's served on a tank or LAV crew in the last 10 to 15 years, once that movie came out, we all watched the next gen of commanders all slowly integrate this shaved head, long bangs, greased back look. It was part of the modern hipster design anyways. And so this is more just an homage to that haircut, and just to keep things, keep hair varying in the Joe range. It's pretty easy to just do a simplified short haircut, but every now and then, you know, you want to add a little snap to it, right? So the scar, I gave him a scar because Steeler's been around since wave 1, Steeler's tank crew, and I just felt like it, you know, this shows a bit of a veteran status. I'm not sold on it, but I was there as a reminder that the first wave figures, they should look a little older, a little bit more seasoned perhaps than other waves. So I did the scar thing. I kept the mouth open just in the sketching, just because I wanted it noted that he is speaking. His character should be speaking, because I picture him wearing his headset with the mic in front of his mouth, and he's got his hand up in front of on the side of his helmet, and he's speaking into his mic piece. And I thought that would be a nice little detail for a crew commander figure like Steeler. Okay, so the jacket. On the original figure, you didn't have a second layer of wardrobe to him. He had the plain jumpsuit, which, you know, divided either between the belt or went under the belt. It was either a jacket and pants, or it was a jumpsuit with a light colored shirt, and then that chest rig holster. So here's where I kind of took my liberties in modernizing it, but trying to still keep it somewhat simple with the color schemes, and try to keep it looking like Steeler, keeping it a brown and a green and that. But the first thing I looked at was that chest holster, and I was like, okay, we keep the chest holster, but I dropped the pistol down to the side. And there's a reason for that, and it was because I wanted to make room for his chest-mounted mini Uzi. All right, so armored crews, guys, if you've served with the armed forces at any point, you might know this. Those of you who watch a lot of movies, you're starting to see this as movies become more realistic in their indication of what soldiers actually up against. But in an armored vehicle, you don't have space for F all, guys. You can't bring around, I mean, every inch is some piece of kit that you guys need in that vehicle, right? It's either ammo or tools or fuel or food or the ability to cook food or water and more water, right? These things get hot in your cramped little space. You really have your personal bubble plus 2 inches. That's about it. And you do have storage racks for your weapon, but you'll find that a lot of vehicles, you'll see in those side storage bins that are around the turret and the sides of the vehicle, a lot of personal kit goes on there from the soldiers that crew those vehicles inside, because the inside's just way too packed. All right, so what you'll see with armored crews is we do like our more compact design weapons, same as a lot of flight crews. So you'll see weapons that have collapsible stocks, shortened muzzles, shortened barrels, and shortened bodies, upper and lower receivers. So for Steeler, I fully acknowledge he had a full-sized Uzi when he came out, but I felt like the modernization needed him to have an armored crew member weapon, and therefore that Uzi, while it is compact, there was a more compact version that made sense. And I thought the chest rig would be a neat little detail in that it's not a commitment, guys. I designed this chest rig with a slip clip. I call it the clip and slip. So basically what you have is up here. You have this chest rig and the shoulder straps, and then you have a loose fitting strap on the upper torso. And then you have this small clip system on the back of this padded, quilted housing for the weapon. And that clip slips under there. Okay, and the reason that's important is because it also incorporates onto the back belt. If you don't want it on the chest and you still want it on there, it can go onto his backside, okay? So that's a real detail with armored crews that I thought I could address, and I tried to bring that to the table. Do I feel like it works in the design that it is? I'm not 100% on it, guys. I'm really not. There's things about it I don't mind. There's things about it I don't like. I do want to keep the idea of having that chest rig, small, compact submachine gun. And it does have a couple of mags that I threw on there on the lower part, saying that they were attachments that you would pin in to the actual thing. So take it or leave it kind of stuff there. And then the gun would slip into these plastic retainers. So I could dial that in a bit more, but that's again what you would talk to a design team about and say, hey guys, what else? What other things are we seeing? So I'll move over to the shoulders. I did up a little patches on him because one, Classified starting to make really good details in the shoulder regions with some patches and icons and rank insignias and whatnot. So I felt like that should be reflected. If we go down the sleeve, guys, this is more armored stuff, okay? So this jacket is based very much on a bomber jacket that I got issued when I was just getting my crew commander's course out of the way. And it's a very shortened bomber jacket. It actually sits up right above the navel line. But this is for the winter. And the reason I loved this jacket and why it was a good design is we have a lot of stuff in our turrets that we can get snagged on, especially the older vehicles. Just tons of stuff to get snagged on. Even your own seat, the back of it can snag you. You could snag a lever, and before you know it, in a live, you could have, accidentally slipped your secondary ammo, or got snagged on a feed chute while you're trying to work your stoppages in your coaxial gun. So it is thicker. I didn't like it for the lav, but I loved the maneuverability that having that short waist bomber jacket gave me in a turret in the winter, and it was warm. All right, and it looked cool. It had that big puffy hoodie. It's not a puffy hoodie, sorry. It's a shell hoodie with a wire frame, so you could pull it up over you. You could bend it close around your face. You could leave it. It was wire inside, so it was a cool hood to have. So as I go down, this is why I started talking about that, is pen holders. Guys, A armored crew commander for a tank is going to be using a map, and he's going to be using colored pens and grease pencils to keep track of the battle and where he's going into it, right? He's going to be updating the enemy's situation with red pen, like a red grease pencil on his map, and doing things like that keeps him at max effectiveness. He's going to be pumping out where he is on the net. He's going to be writing grids down. And guys, I wanted that represented on the figure, so I gave him not just Staedtler pencils on one side, but grease pencils on the other. Sorry, let's get the camera work right. Grease pencils on the other side. And then he's got his map, which he just does all his quick notes on down here. And I figured they could have a nice graphic for that. And that we've seen before on Joe with CoverGirl's tablet. But if you remember back to the old Rattler pilots, no, Steeler didn't have this, but the Rattler pilots did. And that always made a lot of sense. You know, you're dealing with a lot of equipment and tech, well, at eye level that has nothing to do with your current location when you're in a tank, guys. In front of your head is all your sights and weapon systems and periscopes for looking around, and then your radio equipment, and you have to maneuver around. Somewhere lower, you have your GPS readout and your bearings and where you're going, right? But to just look down at your leg to take notes is really handy, because there's not a whole lot of writing space up there. You basically have to write on what you can find, okay? So that's why I did that. And then we have zipper sleeve pockets on those. That was part of my jacket, I just thought there. And then you got your almost hoodie style pockets in the front where the hands go inset. I added black shoulder pads because turrets, and we have a lot of sharp stuff in the turrets. And again, I could take or leave these, but I decided to do them there. I'm just trying to think of where else we threw in a detail on there. Well, moving down, we'll go to the gloves and the belt. So the belt is the old H-style belt that you had with the figure. I just defined it a little bit more. And then going down to the gloves, guys, armored guys, we love our black, simple gloves. Yeah, we'll wear technical gloves and we'll do all of that, but we're big on to our just simple gloves, because quite honestly, we sacrifice them to the turret monster all the time. They get dropped down in the turret, and then before you know it, you need new gloves. So just regular black gloves we have in abundance, and that's what the armored guys wear all the time. Speaking of the regular black stuff that you get when you're in the armored units, you get the black boots. We call them the black Cadillacs. So that's another nod to just simplistic military designs that need to be retained with the figures. I think Steeler's boots were probably brown, if not black, but the black Cadillac is the #1 means of transportation for any soldier, so it's on there. All right, moving over to the helmet, you would have the standard crew helmet that they are providing with the classified line, just like you did in the first waves of the 3.5 inch in 82, 83. All the helmets were one standard design, and then they added attachments to that and customized those design. So I went no different with that, except that I incorporated a headset built into the thing. I thought about whether we could get away with having the headset being a separate piece, and I think once you get into too many small separate pieces, it's going to get real expensive real fast. Molding it on there also allowed it to, if you were to do it as a separate piece, then you would need to redesign the helmet to have an open ear side piece so that the headset actually worked with it. So instead I just went with a armored modified basic helmet with the headsets incorporated into the helmet, and that's carved in. The goggles are very much as per Dusty. They are separate. You would have a different set. So in the original Steeler, he didn't have goggles, and he probably should have. It's good eye protection. Every armored crew wears their eye protection because of dust and sand and battlefield threats. You know, debris, kick up. So we always have them. If you're not having them, you're not prepared. So we do have them. But I acknowledge Steeler had that big rectangular one, right? That IR laser rangefinder, I think, was his attachment for his, if I had to logic out what it was. So we would have two attachments with the helmet that you could slip over, either the traditional one or the goggles. You'll see this kind of lumpy detail I put on here on the back, guys, on the back of that and on the back of the goggles as well over here. And what that is, guys, is that's sand protection. That's a piece of cloth that we all flip to the back of our goggles And then when we're not wearing our goggles down, we'll put that over to keep the elements from getting the lenses all dusty and dirty. Those lenses, they're great until they start scratching, guys. So we do protect our ballistic lenses a lot. So I put that little cloth sleeve representation at the back of it. Moving down, we've got the other ballistic eyeglass kit. I figured if you're going to do a deluxe version of him, perhaps, this would be a throw-in you could have, and that's ballistic eyewear that would slip over his eyes. And that is why I spaced out that scar as well, guys, is to represent that the ballistic eyewear saved his right eye. Okay, and because it does, guys. I know a couple of soldiers whose ballistic eyewear was very evident in the scars that they have on their face. Okay, so that was the reasoning behind that. Going down, we've got his chest rig holster, and I did put a little cross saber armored cav representation on the holster. I figure that's just a good little sculpt. And then we have a more defined mini Uzi, with the more compact than the normal design. And then I put just a kind of my own version of a collapsing stock. I didn't use the ones that they have out there on the open market now, because at the time I was nowhere near my tablet to look those up. So I just said, screw it, we'll make a folding one. All right, so moving out. Binos. Every crew commander needs a set of binos. They're a simple ad. We've seen them on characters before. If you're going to just pick and choose the odd one to have them, Steeler's definitely one. Let's get them binos. And they would clip into this recess I'm looking at on the side of the belt where this little arrow is pointing. That would be just like how Rock and Roll's walkie-talkie clips in there. That's where his binos would clip. And you can see I did pad those elbow pads a bit that I said I could take or leave. Going over to I forgot to touch on the right wrist or the left wrist, but guys, there's a different color than what was on one of my previous, I think Flash had it. It's GPS. Crew commanders love their GPS, and we love to be able to see it on our wrist if we can. So love to have that. Now, I was tossing around the idea of maybe giving a SDC variant or pardon me for coughing, a premium variant that might include the old black armored beret that I wore for the last most part of my career. This black from the Western Brigades in Canada. It is the black beret that is associated with our armored corps, and I thought it would be a neat little ad just to throw in. We've got Big Ben from England, but where's our Canadian representation on there? I get that Steeler's already been defined by his nationality, but I thought it'd be interesting to have a Canadian variant. Maybe he did a soldier exchange with them for 5 years and became, which we do, guys. We do have American soldiers that are attached to us, just as we have guys in Chile, vice versa. You know, it's like we do exchange programs with other militaries. So maybe that's how he got his black beret, was he did some time with the Canadian Armored Corps. The last little thing I keep trying not to show, but I'm going to show. This is mission essential right here, guys. This is a Tim Hortons coffee cup and a bag of spits. And most soldiers, especially us ground troops, we all have a relationship with our sunflower seeds and spitting them into a receptacle. I thought, what a fun little ad. You could just have that in his hand in the background for posing your guy while everybody's fighting. He's sitting there eating a bag of spits and spitting them into his cup. So you could do that with this figure. Could you picture it? I can. Anyways, and then we've got our rear view of the character, which you can see where I defined that Brad Pitt Fury haircut a little bit, showed the hood. That's where the backpack peg lines up, and that we're not throwing a backpack on him. We've got that free play in that chest because it's an open back, and where I put that front holster, that's the other reason why I wanted to move it to the rear if the owner of the figure so wanted, was so that it wouldn't interfere with chest range of motion either. Going down, I've got that lumbar support, and then you've got his first aid kit on his legs, and we've got those blouse pants with the different type of blousing on there. It's just one of the other ways other nationalities can blouse their pants, with basic pant design, and the new Canadian pants have a Velcro blousing system that looks a lot like that. So that's more or less it. The colors aren't exact because I'm limited to what pencils I have with me right now, guys. And then just another look up there at how that chest rig would come on and off, right? So I think I've said everything I wanted to say about the character itself. And as you can see, I didn't give him the earplugs. So on my next video, guys, I'm going to be getting into my next character that I've done. And this is the one that's going to have the ear assistance. But this is where I'm going with Zap. And the challenge with Zap, guys, is that you have to make him different than Bazooka. And I don't think that's necessarily as easy as one thinks. So, guys, that'll be the next video. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.